Hello friends, I hope you're hanging in there. Some of you are familiar with the way that these Sunday Not a Sermons work, and some of you might be just trying one of these out for the first time. The best and most beautiful parts of this video are meant to be what happens in your own home, in your own living room, or wherever you are, gathered with the people in your home. Or if you live alone, call a friend and show them where the video is online. Watch it together, because there are going to be places where you pause the video and you do an activity or you have a conversation, a discussion, and those parts are meant to be the most beautiful parts of this video. So let's jump in. Today we are talking about listening, and we're going to kick it off with a game. This game is called Guess That Listening Style. So I'm going to introduce you to 8 different listening styles. And you will need at least 2 people to play this game. So, any number of people can play. So there will be a listener and a talker. The listener will choose from one of the 8 listening styles that I will give you in just a moment. So they'll secretly choose one. They have it in their mind. Then the talker is going to come and start talking to them. They can talk to them about whatever they want. They can make something up. They can tell a story. They can act like there's an emergency. They can be as dull or as strange or off the wall or exciting as they want to be. So the talker starts talking. The listener responds according to the listening style that they have chosen. Then the talker gets to guess which listening style did they choose. So that's the game. You may be wondering, okay, what are the 8 listening styles? Here they are. First of all, there is the brick wall. It really doesn't matter what you say to a brick wall. All you receive in return is crickets. It's silence. It's thin air. Nothing. Either they don't care about what you're saying, or they're just really passive aggressive. Then there's the distracted listener. They're in the middle of doing something usually. They don't look up when you start talking. They just keep on doing what they're doing. And they respond by saying something like, that's nice. So you might say, the house is on fire. Or, I've decided to switch to an all sugar diet. Or, I'm growing a tail. And they say, that's nice. Then there's the selective listener. This person seems like a brick wall, unless you mention the right thing, something they care about, and then they come alive. Oh, did I hear you say something about ice cream? Are we going for ice cream? Then there's the jet ski. This person loves to talk and talk and talk, and listening just means waiting to talk. Listening is really boring to them. So it really doesn't matter what you say, they're going to talk right over the top of you. And they probably don't remember half of what they say, so they're probably going to tell you the same story and say the same thing over and over and over. And they just kind of stay on the surface, zipping along. So you say, I'm having a hard time today. And they're just going to keep right on talking about their favorite brand of shampoo. It would never occur to them to be quiet or to ask a question. Then there's the story stealer. The story stealer wants the attention. So whatever you're saying, your story is a chance to one-up you, is their chance to one-up you. So whatever you have to say, they're going to butt in with a better story than your own, and they're going to steal the spotlight. They tend towards narcissism, probably. Then there is the corrector. This person doesn't listen to learn. They listen to negate. They're going to find what's wrong with what you say, and they're going to point it out. So their favorite words are actually, or no, but, and then they give you what's wrong. They know they're right, and so they have to have the last word. They often leave you feeling like, I'm not very intelligent. Then there's the fixer. You barely get started talking, and they interrupt you. They say, I get it. Here's what you should do. They think they know what you're trying to say. They think they know what's going on. They jump to conclusions. They're quick to hand out advice or answers. They don't listen to explore. They don't listen to learn or to understand. Rather, they listen looking for an opportunity to share their answer, which means your feelings really aren't that important. So if you're talking to a fixer, you might finish the conversation feeling like they don't understand me. The scuba diver is the last listening style. When you say something, this person slows down. They dive deep. They want to explore what you're saying. So you can tell they're paying attention. They're treating you like whatever you're saying is worth exploring. They ask open-ended questions or follow-up questions, clarifying questions. What's it like? Tell me more. And when the conversation is finally over, when they come to the surface, they know a whole lot more about you. They know about your treasures, the shipwrecks, the rocky crags, the depths. So those are the 8 listening styles. So pause the video and play the game for a while. Guess that listening style. Get into it. Try out the different styles. The listener is going to secretly choose one of the 8 styles. The talker gets to talk, and then the talker guesses. After the listener responds, the talker guesses which listening style was used. So, have fun, go for it. Okay, did any of those listening styles feel way too familiar? If that game made you feel a little sheepish about your own listening skills, just know you're not alone. We all have a natural inclination to listen in a certain way and probably to have some deficits, some challenges with listening, just within our personality and who we are. And quarantine life might be amplifying those challenges for many of us. Because right now, there are a lot of people that we can't see when we're talking. We can't see them. And we're certainly not supposed to be touching them. And we probably can't smell them. So we're relying even more on our listening and then our talking and the way those two work together. So our challenges might be amplified. And then you've got the limited time factor for some people. Some people are trying to work at home and maybe full-time even. And in the meantime, there's full-time life happening at home, whether you've got children at home or other people in the house. And so your attention is split up. Like, where am I supposed to be giving my attention to the people in the house or to my work right now? How am I supposed to juggle all of that? And so who do I give my time and attention can be a real challenge right now. Then there's the folks who live alone. When you finally get a chance to talk to other people, you might feel like you've got a major backlog of stuff that you need to process, things that you need to say. And so someone calls you, or you finally go out to the grocery store and see some people, and you might feel like you're just talk. You're not really doing any listening at all. For some of you, you've been living in this quarantine life for about 5 weeks and with the same people in the same house. And so when someone in your household starts talking to you, you might feel like, I just need some space, just a little bit of space. You might feel like, I'm not very ready to engage deeply with what you're saying in this moment, it might be more challenging for you to be interested in what they're saying, or just to have a sense of patience for what they're saying. So we could ask the question, does this listening stuff really matter that much? Like, why is it important? Well, what if part of being created in the image of God, what if part of it is that we are created to listen? What if listening is a part of who God is? The Bible tells us that the Father listens to the Son, and the Spirit listens to the Son, and the Son listens to the Father, and the Spirit listens to the Father, and the Father listens to the Spirit, and the Son listens to the Spirit. And so you put that all together, and there's a whole lot of listening going on within who God is. We're told that God is love, and in so many ways, listening is love. It's giving someone your attention. Listening builds relationships. It builds trust. Bible scholar Scott McKnight has pointed out that the people of Israel in the Old Testament, their greatest sin, their greatest failure was their refusal to listen to God. And the way that God felt that was as, you don't love me. That's the way it felt to God. So here's your discussion question. Pause the video and talk about this. Think about someone who doesn't listen well, and you don't necessarily have to name them, but think about someone who doesn't listen well and answer this question. Do you trust them? Do you feel loved by them? Why or why not? So pause the video and have that conversation with one another. Listening was a big part of Jesus' ministry here on earth. Jesus had the truth. He already knew what people were thinking. And yet, I can't find a single time in the Gospels that Jesus interrupted someone to tell them that truth. He already knew the actual right thing to say, but he lets them finish. I can't find a time when he interrupts someone. So, why did Jesus do so much listening if he already knew the truth? Jesus is constantly asking people questions. If you read through the Gospels, just looking for the question marks, he's constantly asking questions. He's asking people to articulate something further. Why? People who ask questions, people who listen well, they're often our greatest guides, because it's like they lead us right up to the brink of a realization, some kind of the edge of a self-discovery. They lead us right up to the edge of that, and then we say, oh, and it's something that impacts us for the rest of our life. And those are the kinds of questions that Jesus was really good at asking. Like, do you want to be made well? Or, what do you want me to do for you? Or, who do you say that I am? Or, do you love me? Questions like that. Jesus is often inviting his disciples and his listeners to have ears to hear. I find Jesus often listening to people in his world who had no voice in that society. They were the outcasts. Children, lepers, blind people, tax collectors, foreigners, women. In one of my favorite stories, Jesus is on his way. It's an emergency situation, and he's helping a community leader, a synagogue leader, whose daughter is dying. And there's a large crowd. They're all on their way. It's a big deal. These are important people. And along the way, there's an outcast woman who's had an issue with bleeding for 12 years. And she just sneaks and reaches, touches the hem of Jesus' garment. And she's healed. Jesus could just keep on going. This is an important family. It's an important situation. But part of the woman's healing is that he stops everything. He gives that woman his complete attention. And he lets her tell her entire story, her entire reality, what this has been for her for 12 years. In front of this large crowd, in front of her community, he lets her tell her story, and he listens. He gives her the dignity of his complete attention, and it's part of her healing. Now, not everyone in Jesus' day valued listening. Listening was kind of a privilege. And so there's another story with Mary and Martha where Martha's in the kitchen cooking and doing and getting the meal ready, but Mary is sitting at Jesus' feet and listening, which is the posture of a disciple, which wasn't something that women were supposed to do in Jesus' day. It wasn't supposed to be okay. And so Martha comes in and she wants Mary to come back into the kitchen, get her proper role going, and come on, get back in here and start doing. And Jesus prioritizes rather Mary's listening over her doing. He says that her listening is actually better, and it's actually what is needed. Wow. The book of James says, "Dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen. They should be slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger doesn't produce the justice, the righteousness that God desires." Scott Peck says it this way. He just says, listening is hard work. He says, listening well is an exercise of attention, and by necessity, it is hard work. So he says, people who don't recognize that, either they're not willing to do the work, or they just haven't recognized that it's needed, and so either way, they don't listen very well. So we have to recognize this. To listen well, it really does take hard work. It means that I have to set aside my own need to be heard, my own need for attention. It's recognizing there's something within my ego, there's something within your ego that sometimes wants the spotlight. We want some kind of something. We want to be heard. And so it's setting that aside. Listening well means I'm recognizing the value of someone else. They have something worth saying. They are a person worth exploring. It means being willing to consider yourself a learner. So rather than I jump to a conclusion or a correction or I lord it over you in some way, I give you advice, rather I hear you with maybe there's something that I can learn from what you are saying. Listening well means that it doesn't mean, well, I'm convinced that I know what's going on and I'm convinced that I know what you're saying. Rather, it's you are convinced that I understand what you're saying. It's you have spoken about this enough, and then I've asked enough clarifying questions, and I've chewed on it, and you've listened to me chew on it, and now you are convinced, yes, you get it. Listening well sometimes means that we let someone say something that we disagree with, and we do not say anything. There's the story of the distinguished philosophy professor at the University of Southern California. You may know him or know of him, Dallas Willard. And as the story goes, one day in philosophy class, there's this student that starts spinning, talking this kind of ridiculous logic. And So Dallas just listens to the student, and the student talks, spins his logic. And when the student has finished speaking, Dallas dismisses the class. Bye everyone, have a good day. Well, there's another student in the class who just can hardly abide this. So they come up to the professor, Dallas Willard, and they say, what in the world? Why didn't you correct him? His logic is flawed. Why didn't you just set him straight? You could easily deconstruct what he was saying. And Dallas responds, he says, well, today I'm practicing the discipline of not having the last word. Wow. Listening. The Apostle Paul says, in humility, value others above yourselves. He says, think of others as better than yourself. So not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. He says in your relationships with one another, you should have that same attitude as Christ Jesus. How does Jesus listen to others? So what if part of loving our neighbor as ourself, what if part of being created in the image of God happens through the way that we listen to one another? So here's your final discussion question that you get to have today at home. There's a couple parts to it. So first of all, what is it that makes you feel listened to, that makes you feel heard? And then we have to flip that coin around. What is it that makes you not feel listened to? What is it that makes you not feel heard? Explore that question with one another. Do the clarification thing where you keep diving deeper. Understand what you're saying to one another. And then there's the response to it all, which is identify at least one way that you want to pray for God to help you change. One way you'd like to grow in your ability to listen. And finish by praying with one another and for one another, asking God to help you become a person that really does listen. Created in the image of God, listens in the way that God listens. So, pause the video, have that conversation. Love you. Have a wonderful Sabbath.